Let's talk Gamestop, the company so true. Not just the price, but the value in view. Fundamentals will rise or fall in time, but first we climb this mountain high. Be more invested, rise above the game. Love her or hate her, she speaks with flame. Her voice will shine like morning dew, guiding us all to see what's true. She's kind and smart, her heart so pure, generous soul that will endure. She lifts us up, she makes us fight, encourages us through the night. Think for yourself and take the lead. Build a future, plant the seed for your family, for your name. Light the fire, fan the flame. Her words will echo through the years, melting away all doubts and fears. With every truth she helps us grow, showing the path we ought to know. She's kind and smart, her heart so pure, generous soul that will endure. She lifts us up, she makes us fight, encourages us through the night. Think for yourself and take the lead. Build a future, plant the seed for your family, for your name. Like a fire, fan the flame.
Alright guys, it's 1 p.m. Don't have anything much to do, so I thought let's hang out for a bit. I'm kind of consuming a lot of content, Bitcoin content actually. Just to get ideas, what's trending and all that stuff, and what other people are talking about it, and what are they saying about Bitcoin, right? Of course, a lot of things has to be hold on a second. To make sure I have the right video cue over here. Now, before we're talking about Bitcoin here, so let's talk about and again, I'm gonna draw it the conclusion on GME as well. So, nothing to be said about GME at the moment, but I feel like they have been pumping other stock that are related to quote unquote meme stock, right? So we see cars going up, we see opendoor going up, right? And recently, it's actually becoming more mainstream. Okay, now when they're pushing something like that to you, of course, you know they're selling it to you. They want you to buy at a high, and then so that they could dump it on you. Of course, they already established the position in opendoor. Hold on, because we did talk about opendoor a little bit here. But for those of you who've been here for a long time, so you understand why they're doing that. Perhaps again, you know, I think Moran's already did a video proving that, you know, that perhaps there's a connection between, you know, private equity and seemingly that these companies that they are pushing in front of you right now to be like the next GME. And again, they've been doing that for the last 4 years, right? That they're ready to pump it up again when the liquidity is about to entering the market, and again, including crypto as well. I'm not, knocking that. But again, crypto has a special place in my heart, obviously. And it's kind of unrelated to the whole private equity angle, but also let me say that I kind of think that Ethereum is kind of private equity too. So because remember Jay Clayton, the guy who used to be the SEC, give a green light to Ethereum and Bitcoin, while going after XRP and all that stuff. So again, that's why I'm thinking perhaps ETH has something to do with the um, Apollo Global Management or something of that sort. Okay, so the connection is there, but I don't want to go too deep into that. But that's why I'm sure the next pump on GME on Ethereum is going to be the next one to watch out for. Again, I'm not telling you guys to buy anything or sell anything. I just want to, give you a perspective here, my own perspective here. I have a feeling that it's going to be pumped into, the market, and just be careful, okay? As far as like the shares, I already established my position in GME. Enough of it so that I feel comfortable not adding more at the moment in time. Not to say that I won't add more at this moment in time. I mean, later on, sorry. Not to say that I won't add more later on in the future. I'm just saying that right now, I'm okay with, not adding more. Although very enticing, right? With the few exception that if, let's say, either Bitcoin or Ethereum goes much quicker, and before GME's run, I'm hoping that GME would stay low, as low as possible, even after crypto run. Now I talked about the sale of Bitcoin a couple of days ago where people were freaking out. Let's see. People were freaking out a couple of days ago when 80,000 coin was being sold. And I told you that, perhaps they were seeing another opportunity, which is typically what's happening, what happened before, the cycle, right? Anytime the Bitcoin is reaching all-time high, then Ethereum is setting up for the run. Okay. So that's probably what happened, is that, some of that money is probably pivoting to the altcoin space. And again, everybody who been in this, crypto, there's a 4-year cycle, and perhaps again, this is nothing new. It's just that right now it's like institutional level of FOMOing it, okay? Because retail has already been, well, if you're in this space, obviously, and know a lot more, you probably be aware of it and trying to at least get ahead of it, right? Building your position before, the crowd get into it. Kenny, hey, what's up? But my point is that, again, I feel like all of the institutions are setting up for the ETH to go to run pretty in more percentage. And like I said, altcoin season is here because, the Bitcoin dominance has been falling. And this is the signal for, Ethereum to run. And you would see it in the inflow of Ethereum ETF. Right now, it's like tens of billions of dollars at the moment in time to try to catch that move. And the move for Ethereum, obviously, if you were to zoom out, okay, see, Ethereum has not reached its all-time high. So this is why you see the opportunity there. And other people, I'm sure, other institutions are positioning themselves as well. And then you see recently where some company, that are trying to mimic what Michael Saylor is doing with Bitcoin. So instead of buying Bitcoin, they're buying Ethereum so that they could stake it as well. So again, if you have Ethereum, even Robinhood right now, if you have Ethereum, you could stake it and get some, portion of Ethereum back, in terms of, dividends, or, they doesn't call it dividend, but they call it rewards. Again, that's the technical thing, but all you have to know now is that, if you own Ethereum on Robinhood, you could get more Ethereum eventually, APY or whatever. Depends on what the network's usage and all that stuff. Anyways, what else? Yeah. So that's that. I really think that, this bull run for GME, it's going to be a bit tough for the stock to do what it's supposed to do. And perhaps it's going to run. It's going to run like any other stock, but in a smaller percentage. Because, again, they don't want GME as a stock to run. I'm not saying to discourage you guys here. I'm just saying that just to be prepared for anything. But eventually, like I said, if the fundamental has been improving so much, then, there's no denying that the company will do well eventually in the future. And so my thought is that, right now they're trying to deter you to buy into GME for 4 years now, and I'm sure it's going to continue to that, in that trend until they are ready to, close their position or whatever. But it really depends on the retail investor too, right? How diligent, how loyal, how patient you are if you were to stay in GME, for it to do what you expect it to do. And I know it's going to frustrate a whole bunch of people out, because if you don't see GME moving, you're tempted to sell it and then go back into something else that you think that it's going to run. But inevitably, you might lose money on that too, right? On the new thing that you're jumping into. Not knowing that when you establish in a position in GME, perhaps, you might not want to do that. But again, it's a risk, right? It's a risk either way. Whatever's action that you are called to do, make sure it's your own action. Make sure it's your, own line of thinking, and not somebody else influencing you to do, to do what you do with your position here. Anyway, so with that though, I saw a segment on Pompilano, bringing some guy who supposedly telling people that opendoor should be at $40 a share. It's crazy, right? Of course, now they're all like switching their tune, because when it was over here, they don't want to tell you about it. But now, when it's already 5x or close to, say 3x there, 3x already. All of a sudden, it's the best thing since sliced bread, right? And the other thing that guy was saying, I don't want to show the video, but you probably could search it online. They're trying to tout it as a, the next GME here. And apparently it's on Reddit, and apparently on, so that's a red flag, right? But again, like I said, you might be able to catch the momentum and then make some money, and then, boast about it online and all that stuff. So just be careful. I'm sure you're going to 10x this thing, and then you're like, oh my God, you're a genius, right? Nah, because they want you to be in here, not focusing on your real investment, which is, in my opinion, GME. When it comes to meme stock, right? Quote unquote meme stock. Now being a meme stock is in again, like be in the crowd again, because again, you see the massive of tsunamis of money coming in. Of course, people are expecting Jerome Powell to lower the rate this month, or next month, sorry, for the decision. But we'll see. He might still keep the rate lower or on schedule to only do September and then one more before the year end, which is still, is going to kind of cause some enthusiasm in the crypto market, especially XRP, right? Because that's what it's set up to do. And stocks like GME is going to also be participating in that too. But again, they might disappoint you in allowing not allowing GME to run as fast as the other stuff too, that they're dangling in front of the public over here. But again, with crypto, blockchains, and all that stuff, unless Ryan Cohen decided to buy into something that surprised the market, especially the Wall Street types out there. But like I said, I don't think he's gonna do something stupid with that money. I think he would much rather wait and being the third, fourth, or fifth, just to make sure that he doesn't lose any money for the company, which makes sense too, right? We don't want to rush into something that is too risky, and then also, remember he's managing billions of dollars over here. If you lose $1 billion, will spend you the next 10 years to make, just from the operational cost or operational income coming in. So technically, the core business, it doesn't bring in as much money at the moment in time, based on what we saw last year. However, hopefully we're going to be able to bring more. My thought is around $250 million. That would be a juicy, profit margin. But who knows? It could be less in a year from now. But even then, $250 million is still an enormous amount of money. I think people don't realize how much $1 billion is, It's crazy to me, right? But because we've been so in tune to like trillions of dollars that, $1 billion is worth nothing anymore. So in terms of scale, right? Unless you make $100 billion, then they'll be wide. Their eyes would be more wide open to that. So, but again, back to the surprise element, that Ryan could do, which is buying Ethereum at this moment in time. Not the hype or not the hype thing or not at all, but the setup is there, right? In terms of technical risk to the reward ratio for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin is still in the balance sheets. Don't sell that. Just hold or buy, Ethereum on that premise. But again, like I said, he's probably consulting with his investment advisor, consulting with the market, knowing what's trending and all that stuff, or he just doesn't care too much. He cares about the business aspect of it. What can he do to add more revenue? Which he's working very hard on that front. That okay, we have Bitcoin as a hedge for inflation now. We don't have to add any other coins in order to be anything. So that could also be a possibility, which I don't mind that at all. I know, like for me, like I said, GME is like the most stable company out there, that you might not see the price action yet, appreciation and all that stuff, because the big guys out there it's not ready to pump it to you yet, right? Yet. But in the future, you're gonna see it. Okay, so let me draw you guys back into this video that I saw um, of some guy who was on Wall Street. I forgot his name. I guess this is his name right there. James Lavish. Apparently he used to work at, Wall Street type and traders and all that stuff, institutional level. And he used to talk about Bitcoin when it used to be kind of less well known to the Wall Street type. And this is what he's described Bitcoin and what it was like talking about Bitcoin way when it was, $3,000 a piece. And so here's what he recounted.
The crypto page on Bloomberg back then, and had a list of all these things, and Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and all this other stuff. And I was like, I don't even know what the difference is here. So I go and talk to some of the experts because I'm in Wall Street. I'm an institutional investor. I have access to anybody on Wall Street, and I start calling around to the different technology analysts and portfolio managers, and because these guys they're the ones who understand this new technology. What is it? Is this something is there anything here? Because I'm looking and I'm like, there's got to be something here. This hasn't gone away. And so, and every single one of them, Stefan, every single one.
Ladies, mix pink salt, lemon, and 2 fridge doors.
I hate these. Like, this is like obviously AI. Look at the mouth. This is actually very scary to me, right? Eventually, this thing's going to improve and you would not be able to tell, the difference between real people and some, people that is being kind of dubbed in this way. It should be illegal. Apparently, Denmark already copyrighted, people's face. So if you use, Oprah Winfrey face, for example, you'll be copyrighted flag on that stuff. Like so, and again, this is shitty what they're doing, because you're using other people influences, and perhaps they don't know whether this is, AI or not. But anyways, just my tangent there. Let's wind real quick.
Listen, portfolio managers, and because these guys they're the ones who understand this new technology. What is it? Is this something is there anything here? Because I'm looking and I'm like, there's got to be something here. This hasn't gone away. And so, and every single one of them, Stefan, every single one, every single one of them said it's worthless. It's nothing but a Ponzi scheme. There's no underlying value. Don't put your money in it. It's a total scam. You'll lose all of it. Just move along. It's just, basically it's a meme coin, basically. And so, I like to say, thank you so much for warding me off of Bitcoin at $3,000. And so I ignored it. And to my own detriment, I listened to the so-called experts on the street who had no clue what they were talking about. Absolutely no idea. All they were doing is listening to each other in a little echo chamber, saying it's worthless. Oh, it's worthless? Oh, okay. But CNN says that, CNBC says it's worthless. And so does, Bloomberg says it's worthless. Okay, so it's worthless. And so they're just climbing all over each other with misinformation, disinformation, not understanding it, no clue how it was decentralized, how it was actually, it was a protocol that was immutable. Like they had no clue how it all worked, how the mining worked, nothing. And so unfortunately, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. And I did not deserve it then because I didn't do the work properly. It's my own fault. I stayed in my echo chamber.
So true, right? So true. And that is the reason why most people would be late in the game. And I think that's true for anything. Like I said, even GME too. People will get GME at the price they deserve. If they do the work that they need to understand a certain instrument, right? And I'm not saying that, just because I am into something that you guys needs to be into it as well. One of my pet peeve, okay? Because what I much rather you guys do is to study it for yourself and understand, okay, what price is makes sense to you, okay? And I understand that, I understand that sometimes, you go to work, you don't have time necessary to, do all the research, reading all this and all that stuff, the technical backgrounds of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all that stuff, unless you're so obsessive like me, you won't be able to, right? And even for me, like I consume a lot of these type of content, but I still don't, get the technical aspect of it quite right. However, as long as you get the trend right, you don't need to like pinpoint, okay, what is the exact price that is supposed to be exactly the value that it is today. Of course, like whatever value that Bitcoin is going to grow into, we don't know that, right? Not even the world economists know that, because the money supply keep increasing. So the value of gold used to be, only $10 trillion. Now it's $14 trillion, right? And so the trend is, if the government keep printing more money, then the value of gold might grow into $22 trillion, right? And so it depends on the amount of money that is being printed. And so Bitcoin is going to grow into that too. So understand, just understand that trend alone. You wouldn't want to at least ignore this type of asset class and still think that it is a freaking scam, for example. Like, I hate that when people say, it's a scam. It's like, Wall Street already own it and all that stuff. Without really like, hey, didn't you hear he said that? Like, Wall Street doesn't really know what it was either. Okay? Now they find the opportunity to sell it to you, that they could make the spread out of it. They don't care what it is, whether you want it to buy and sell it or not. But because of the demand for the asset class, they're going to allow you to do it. And it's nothing nefarious about that. It's just that, now they recognize, hey, there's a critical mass over here that will, yield in terms of fees and, ETFs and all that stuff. So now they have economic incentive to pump the asset class to you. Does that make sense? Like I said, doesn't mean that it's now it's just a scam all of a sudden because Wall Street is all of a sudden into it, right? You have to understand the network effect. You have to understand, what is the utility on top of that. That also not to say that they're not going to sell it up to the wazoo, meaning pump it up to you so that they could get the maximum price, the highly inflated one. So just have to make sure that if you're in this asset class, make sure to, take some off the table, because inevitably when people are rushing in to get into something, it's going to be overinflated for that moment in time. Okay, for that moment in time. Now, if you have like more than 10 years to accumulate this thing, you're not too late. You're not too late at all.
James Lavish first came across Bitcoin, it was trading around $3,000, a rounding error in the grand scheme of institutional finance. But rather than investigate it further, he did what most professionals in his position would do. He called the experts, the Wall Street analysts, the tech sector portfolio managers, the people paid to understand emerging trends and separate signal from noise, and every single one of them dismissed it. That chorus of doubt came not from malice, but from ignorance. These weren't deep technical thinkers or Austrian economists. They were financial generalists, repeating what others had said before them, locked in an echo chamber of outdated assumptions. Lavish, like so many others, took their word for it, and missed one of the most asymmetric investment opportunities of his lifetime. This pattern isn't unique to James Lavish. We've seen it for over a decade now. Mainstream media headlines and traditional finance personalities recycling the same tired warnings, no matter how much Bitcoin matures. Take Peter Schiff, for example. He's been sounding the same alarm since Bitcoin was under $10,000. According to him, it was going to zero in 2013, then again in 2016, and again in 2020. Fast forward to today, Bitcoin has crossed the 100,000 mark, And Schiff's argument hasn't evolved an inch. No acknowledgement of Bitcoin's resilience, its adoption curve, or its role in macroeconomic hedging. Just the same old refrain, don't buy it. It's not real. It will crash. And that's the real danger. Not that people are wrong, but that they refuse to update their views in the face of new information.
That's also another important point too. Like when you have new information introducing into the market, again, the market hasn't seen what Bitcoin is before, 20 years ago, right? Before it was created. So, the model in which they are telling you to do is like the, diversifications and all that stuff used to work in an olden days. Okay, there's a guy named Rick Edelman who suggests that at least have 1% of your, at least have 1% in Bitcoin of your portfolio. If something would happen, great, right? At least you have some exposure to that. He actually was the one who said that, the model of 60-40, like 60 stock and 40 bonds and all that stuff, it's kind of outdated because back then you don't have new technology introducing like blockchain, for example, into the system. So now it makes more sense, right? And also too, people are living longer and longer. You might argue like on the blip of time here where we were like, our life expectancy is kind of lower a little bit here. But over time, people are going to live to 100 years old, and apparently with the advancement of technology, AI and all that stuff, perhaps we could spot new illness earlier, okay? So that's what he was saying. Like, okay, if you live longer, that means you're going to have to position your portfolio a little bit different. And that's what, the traditional financer, people who are, telling you echo chambering, okay, just know old information just to try to muddle the water, saying that, oh, this is safer for you, stay there. Safer for you, stay there. Meanwhile, they're betting, your deposit on stuff that grows them faster than what they're telling you. See what I mean? Again, it's an oldest trick in the book. They tell you not to buy it, but then accumulating it on the back end. Same way. GME too, the same way. Right? Oh, don't touch it. Don't touch it, it's a meme stock. Oh, don't touch it, it doesn't make any money. Oh, don't touch it, it would never be profitable. Oh. Meantime, guess what? They're accumulating quietly, right? And eventually they're going to pump GME to you, right? Just like Bitcoin nowadays. You see a lot of pumping, right? Mainstream media and all that stuff, right? So why do I think it's still early? Well, if you were to ask Google, apparently only 14% of U.S. adult, with only 36 million adult has Bitcoin. Okay, so 36. That's in the U.S. alone. Okay, you probably will. How about world? And around the world? Well, be shocked. It shocks me when I said that, when I asked that. So let me show you. Around the world, just 1.23%. That's insane. That's insanely early. And this is just Bitcoin, obviously, right? How many people who knows Bitcoin knows about XRP? How many Bitcoin who knows about? How many people who knows about Bitcoin knows or own XRP? See what I mean? So again, other coins is always is even lesser. With Ethereum though, it's been kind of like the number 2, and people is probably thinking that it's going to flip Bitcoin's return in some in market cap one day, right? That's always been the bet, right? Ever since it's been created. Everything is like new technology. It's like, oh, this is gonna kill Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no stand and all that stuff. Like that's why the term Bitcoin going to zero always. It's always going to be in people's psychology, because again, they just don't trust that it's going to be there, because again, magic internet money, right? Without understanding, hey, this is a network effect here. Like, the more people adopt it, the more people will trust it. And okay, you could think of it as a digital gold of some sort. Yes, the transaction is low and slow and ancient in that sense, but because it's the first one to be created, there's a lot of improvement upon this the second one, but that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is still not valuable. It's well saturated, in my opinion, that they're gonna try to distribute this to the rest of the world, especially in the US, right? So technically, we are the top 1/10 of 1% for whoever owned Bitcoin here in the US, right? I don't know if this is accounting for the ETFs and all that stuff, so I'm just gonna assume that also account for the ETF as well. So I think this number is going to go a lot higher this year and this coming years. So that's why I'm saying, remember the bell curve? Let me draw the bell curve again so you guys can understand the distribution curve. Okay. So you have the 20%. So you are the top 20% now in the US, but the top 1% if you own Bitcoin. So technically, the GME as a company is one of that top 1%. Okay, so I hope you understand that. I hope you understand that's why I bring Bitcoin up. Even though I'm supposed to be talking about GME, I just want you to realize how amazing it's going to be. Okay, even with this small amount of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Okay, I know people want GME to buy more. I know people want Brian Cohen to buy more Bitcoin. And I think he's going to do that. Right? But again, he's going to do it with the most sense possible. Okay. So we are still here. GME is still here, technically. Right? Now we have the balance sheet to, move quicker to this point in terms of equity, right? Because we have a business model, we have somewhere to go faster than most of the companies that are just, IPO'd and, whatnot. Everybody is trying to stampede to buy into blockchain. There's companies that are making a commitment to put their net income from now on into Ethereum, right? To try to, make sure they pump the Ethereum network. Because of the staking thing, right? They think it's going to be more profitable for them, which is okay. If you want to do that, you do that. But if you don't hold any Bitcoin, I think you're missing out as well. So both of them, I think it's going to do well. Just because Ethereum is more, Wall Street darling, so to speak, right? Because they always going to pump whatever they hold the most of, right? To me, this one, ETH, and again, that's why you have GME coins on ETH on Ethereum network. I'm sure that this time around they're gonna pump this so hard. Meaning, like, they're not going to have any reservation to send it up high to compete with the stock itself. Okay, so I don't know how legal that is, or whether the company GME could legally sue whoever make this coin right here. I don't know. Again, like, it's it's been around, right? It's been around since, with this Genius Act. Does company have the right to their own likeness and all that stuff, like all the copyright law? So I don't know how that would work either. I'd rather not speculate on that. But let's go back. My point here is that we're still like the top 1% right now. It's crazy. It's crazy to think, right? That comes with the loneliness of just being here and waiting on the rest of the world to catch up to you. It's a bit lonely at times, but you know what? I think the wait is going to be rewarded handsomely. I think this is the one I'm talking about here. The coins that they're gonna pump. Again, I'm not telling you guys to buy it. Like, I don't know who created this. I don't know what the distribution is and all that stuff. So just be careful. What is it right there? Let me just. Why is it not showing? Kind of annoying. There you go. So it's down to like less than a penny. Okay. It's crazy now. I guess you need Tether. This is stable coin and all that stuff. You might, I don't know, even Tether too, they are in trouble too. Well, not trouble, but like they need to comply and they're not complying. Anywho, so that was, again, eye-opening. I could finish this. I haven't finished the whole thing here.
Declared dead over 474 times by mainstream outlets. Yet here it is, stronger than ever, becoming a cornerstone of modern portfolios and a serious geopolitical asset. Thankfully, Lavish didn't stay in that echo chamber forever. The seeds of doubt had already been planted. His wife brought up Bitcoin. Then his son, surrounded by brilliant peers at Cornell, urged him to look again. And this time, Lavish didn't ask the experts. He started doing the work himself.
But I wasn't sure what I was going to do after I left that firm. And so, which was in Fort Worth. And so I was kind of searching around. I was talking to people. I was doing some things. And my son, who's at Cornell at the time, he's at the time he's a sophomore at Cornell, and he's surrounded by really, really smart kids. And he said, "Hey, Dad, I know you're not sure what you want to do yet, but I gotta tell you, this crypto thing seems real. I mean, it's cryptology. Like, you should like go check it out because I think there's something here for you. I think this is growing rapidly, and I think this is something you ought to check out." So, okay. And so he said, "Here are the things you need to look at." And he told me he had bought Bitcoin and wrote it all the way up, sold it, bought ETH and Solana. Anyway, so I buy some ETH, I buy some Cardano, I buy some Bitcoin, and I start doing my work on it, and I start listening to people. I'm watching all the.
Ideally, you want to research first and then go and buy things. Okay, but I guess he doesn't want to miss out on while he's learning, catching up to the rest of the, whole 1% of the world over here who own Bitcoin, right? Well, back then it's probably a lot less.
Your big hitters on YouTube trying to figure it out, like what protocol really means. Bitcoin seemed boring. It was big. It was old. It already had its run to its new heights. What is out there that's really exciting and new? Technology, right? And so it took me but one video from Michael Saylor to understand what Bitcoin was. It was a short video. I can't remember exactly who it was with, to be honest with you. He's done thousands of them, or hundreds of them. And so I start migrating towards Bitcoin, and I'm like, okay, this really is the one that makes sense. And so I take what I've invested in there into Bitcoin. I start doing research on Bitcoin. I'm listening to Bitcoin podcasts. I'm reading Bitcoin blog posts. I'm on Bitcoin Twitter. Don't know anybody. I have like maybe a couple hundred followers. And I'm just following a bunch of people, who I can to start like reading about it.
I'm going to reveal the only 5 to 7 stocks that I believe
Sorry
you should
about
trade.
that, you guys. Like, see, I'm cheap, you guys. I don't want to buy YouTube Premium.
I'm following Pomp, and Pomp has this interview with Jeff Booth. Okay, so I'm sitting on the edge of on my bed. I've got the video playing, and I'm sitting on the edge of my bed. My wife's out making dinner or whatever, and she's like, and I'm the one who usually cooks actually, so this is really unique. But she's like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come help? I was like, hold on a second. Actually, can you pause that? Come here and look at this. So I'm like 20, maybe 30 minutes into a 40-minute video. I'm like, you got to see this. And she's like, what? So I rewind it, and we watched the whole thing all the way through on the edge of the bed, just with my laptop, And at the end of it, everything kind of clicks into place for me, And she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, do we own enough? I'm so sorry that I ignored you so years ago. But anyway, so the point is, what clicked for me? What clicked for me, Stefan, is the idea that, okay, I get Bitcoin. Okay, I get why it's immutable. It's decentralized. Okay, store value. Okay, I get it. Digital gold. Okay, I get it. But what? What's the catalyst here? And so what really made, and I've told Jeff, I'm good friends with Jeff now, and which is really kind of neat now going forward because our community is so small. But and I've told him this, and what really clicked into place for me was this idea that we have, the natural progression of technological advance means that you've got technology that's doubling in efficiency every 4 years. Is that right? Moore's law.
Yeah.
And and I don't want to quote it wrong, but basically the massive advances in technology are happening, right? And as those advances in technology are occurring, you have increased productivity for less energy, basically, So we're creating more through technology with less input. We're getting more output. Yet at the same time, you've got this system that depends on inflation, which means you need to have the productivity has to rise in order to tax whatever. But basically, things have to become more expensive. Okay. In order to manage the past debt, because you need more dollars to pay off debt that you've, just amassed. So you've got this increasing pile of debt. And so you've got this force that's inflationary, which is the market manipulation. So now go back to my real life lessons in 1998 and then 2008 and then in 2020. Now you go back to the real life lessons of, oh my God, they're expanding the money supply so rapidly. So that's happening over here. While over here, you've got the advancement of technology that's creating deflationary forces. Like you're getting more for less. And they're colliding. And so what is the answer? The answer is Bitcoin, because it can't be manipulated, and it will allow for this, utopian future of us creating so much output for a lot less work. And so, but the money is it's so corrupt. It's so manipulated that it doesn't allow for this to occur, but Bitcoin does. And so it's not just an investment, it's not just a store of value, it's actually the answer to that question of why are our lives not getting better, even as technology advances so rapidly? How is that possible? Well, it's because of the manipulation. And
That's important. Sorry, it's a long-winded one because I was like, I hope you guys get done this part. But again, like I'm telling you, like even the people that are affected by inflation, they don't get it until it's too late for them. You know, people would say, well, it's only 2% a year. Okay, it's only 2% a year, but eventually your kids won't be able to say that, because by the time it gets to their generation, that 2% a year would diminishing their, unless you leave something to them, right, in order to buffer some of the costs, then you won't, I mean, your kids won't be able to hold the house in which you're buying, right? You've seen that happen right now, where property taxes on some of these residents, they're skyrocketing, right? They're increasing on a level in which people cannot sustain it, even though they bought the house already, right? So the cost of living is like that, where 2% here and there is not going to kill you in a year, but in 25 years it's going to be, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, and then you're going to either blame yourself or blame, the fact that you're not moving quick enough and all that stuff. Great. If you want to build a muscle to try to run so that you could stay in one place, great on you. But eventually, your body's going to give in. So as human, right, you cannot run forever until, your leg drops. I know. Even David Goggins, right, the guy who run, probably will survive because he's so strong and all that stuff, but just surviving, right? Because you cannot outpace the amount of stupidity of people just keep doing the same thing and expecting the different result here. And so eventually everything's gonna fall off, and the only thing that will be left is, oh, sorry, we have to do a reset and all that stuff. So, and like I said, Bitcoin it could be the solution for all of that. Who knows? That's what scare people, right, to think about, because it's something that they might not get into. Like I said, you get the price. I mean, the price of Bitcoin is the price that you deserve to buy it in when you buy it. You get Bitcoin at the price that you deserve. So, see, even me, who saw Bitcoin at $100, didn't deserve it then because I didn't understand it then. Even most recently, I sold at $40,000, thinking it was gonna come down to 35. That short-term mind thinking is what is detrimental to me, right, in the future. And so now I learned that no matter what, even the GME, the strategy that I have right now is to, so that I'm not, so enticed to be like, short-term mind thinking here, right? Even though I think that I could beat the, S&P 500. That's my goal, is to try to beat the S&P 500, right? People are going to be like, good luck for that, right? Good luck for that. But hey, I like to try. What's wrong with that, To me, it's all about learning, and also to, of course, protecting myself for the future. And I hope that's what you're, here for as well.
This fixes it.
James Lavish's journey from institutional insider to Bitcoin advocate isn't just a personal revelation. It's part of a broader shift that's reshaping the financial world. What began as an obscure, misunderstood experiment in digital scarcity has evolved into a globally recognized monetary network with billions in daily trading volume, integration into sovereign policy discussions, and now, serious institutional backing. Today, Wall Street's posture toward Bitcoin is no longer outright dismissal. It's cautious acceptance, and in many cases, full-scale adoption. In 2024, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, and ARK Invest all launched or backed Bitcoin ETFs, signaling a tectonic shift in mainstream credibility. We're not just
Now, all of these ETFs, just so you know, there's different type of ETFs out there, so make sure you've got the right one, right? Rather than ETFs, the reason why they want to sell you the ETF, it's easier for the regular people to digest, Bitcoin. Number one, you don't have to hold your own Bitcoin and all that stuff. Self-storage, but they will take fee from you in order to manage those funds. And on top of that, those ETF might not have the real Bitcoin in their ETF because of whatever regulation. So make sure you read the perspective before you get into those type of instruments. I would try to find like spot Bitcoin or, which Fidelity is trying to get approval of that right now. Or in-kind ETF of some sort where, you make sure that the ETF actually going to the open market and buy Bitcoin when, you have exposure to that. Because again, that's the only way to ensure that there's no counterparty risk in that sense, right? That, it's not paper Bitcoin, so to speak. That's also another, form of manipulation too, because that's the traditional markets out there, right? They create ETF in order to suppress the real price. You've seen it on a GME quite often, the XRT, right? ETF. And so again, those funds are not looked into. Like, again, people are lazy, right? They typically would just buy ETF in order to get a basket of companies, but typically they don't really understand, hey, whoever hold that fund has the ability to not buy the underlying asset, or, somehow lend those shares out because they know that when you're in ETF, you'll probably be there for the next 10, 15 years and, rehypothecating your shares out to whoever wants to borrow it, to short it, to whatever, and get some fee out of that. So not only that they will charge you fee to manage your money, they also make money off of the, share lending part of it. So again, that's why the problem seems a lot bigger and bigger. Now it's because you never know how many people are they lending it out to. See what I mean? If you're big enough of a firm, DTCC or whatever, the F, right? You don't really care. You actually holding the whole supply underneath your finger. But anyway, I'm sure there's some rules and guardrails behind that, hopefully. We all hope, right? That, the people that are supposed to be responsible is going to be responsible. But just think about humanity and as a general, as human, right? You have a tendency to act in your best interest. Okay, so typically, if you're selfish, you're gonna act selfishly for sure. And historical, if you think about how many people in Wall Street are like soulless, of course they would do stuff like that. But anyway, so my point is like, you might not be holding the real Bitcoin, okay, if you are. But this is, again, easy exposure to people who are just learning about it and all that stuff. And the next step would be, learning what is self-storage, cold storage, hot wallet, and all that stuff. And with self-storage, it's eliminating the counterparty risk. You take the full responsibility for your own coin. And of course, people typically don't trust themselves and they rather trust other people to hold that money with for them, or that crypto for them. Not to knock it, but you just need to do research on the institution themselves. Do they have the right tool? Are they, what custodian service are they using, right? And that custodian service, imagine if they use FTX, as their service, right? So that's another example of what it means to have an asset in a counterparty risk. That even though their intention is good, even GME had a little bit of a sting on that too, because we used to promote FTX, right? Or partner up with FTX, and people are like, well, how dumb can leadership be doing that, stuff like that. But my whole point is that when an institution who claim to have Bitcoin and don't have Bitcoin, whether in full or just partially have it, it's a risk that you're willing to take. Also, like self-custody also have its own risk too, right? Because you could lose your key and then boom, done, locked out forever. Nowadays, they have a easier recovery process, but even then, it has some, security flaw. So you might have to protect yourself in some other way, like, again, cyber attack and all that stuff still looming. So you just have to practice safe. I mean, if you hold tens of thousands of dollars, and if you trust your exchange to hold that amount of money, then there's no harm, no foul. My point is, make sure you do the research on the exchange or ETF or whatever. Right? All right, you guys. My goodness, I feel like I've talked too much about Bitcoin. I know people have been like, no, you don't talk about Bitcoin all the time. Bitcoin is very, very, very important, okay, to the survival of GME. I know that, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Not the survival, but for sure it's going to be the growth that we would want in a tech business, right? I think that's the only way to compete nowadays, because if you're not technical, if you're not a high-tech company, they're looking at you as like, what are you doing, right? It's like, unless you could charge people $50 for, an item that would only cost you $1, you're not in the club. Like, remember, the gentleman was saying inflation is the game here. So if you measure anything in fiat, meaning, dollar terms, everything will keep going up in price. But if you measure everything against Bitcoin, you will need less and less Bitcoin to survive. Okay? And if you're smart, of course, you're going to jump in early and then wait 10 more years to reap the benefit. 10 more years. Because in 10 more years, the inflation is going to double, triple, while Bitcoin will be 10x. That makes sense? So outpace the inflation. There is hold on, let me see if I could find, it's an AI generated video. This is kind of like funny. Hold on, you guys, let me try to find it real quick. I think I have it here. Let's see which one. Not that. I think it's, yeah, this one. It's on X. Okay. Hold on. Let me make sure. Okay, so this is just a commentative, funny way to say, hey, traditionally, people who are rich, right? Or again, people who are have any amount of money to save, they typically save it in real estate. And again, rich people are like that too, where they buy a house in the Hampton and all that stuff just to, make sure that they reserve that wealth, right? Because if they buy it, if they just leave it in cash, they're not going to grow their net worth and all that stuff. So that's why housing becoming a lot more unattainable, because top people, top 1% or 10% or even 20% of the wealth have way too much money. They don't know what to do with. So the only natural instinct is to buy real estate. Typically, it would even with the cost of maintenance and all that stuff, they will still come ahead in 10 years. Okay. This is before Bitcoin. Now you have Bitcoin, right? And I think the trend is going to be this way, where all of the real estate, total addressable market, some of it, including the people that have more than one house to their name, they're going to sell their house and buy Bitcoin and store it for 10 years because the trend is going to be like that. And so the housing market is going to be more affordable. That's good news. But for people who are still thinking that real estate is better than Bitcoin, it's going to experience this. So let's listen in.
Have you already invested in Bitcoin?
Nah. We're buying a house. That's the real investment.
Breaking news. Bitcoin hits a new all-time high to save the most profitable asset of the millennium.
Yeah, but you can't live in your Bitcoin, dumbass.
Kids, this is it. We finally did it. This is our house, our generational wealth. This is better than Bitcoin. This is our retirement account. It's only going up from here.
Look at the house. Oh. It's like that. It's like comical, you guys. Like, I'm in California, right? And I've been trying to look at the real estate market. It's a joke. Some of us, like, run down house and they want like more than $500,000 on it. Crazy. And, if you were to buy that house, obviously you would have to spend, at least $100,000 more just to renovate it. And so that's a starter home, by the way. It's not like some, house that is supposedly starting, to start a family. So you're already going into that massive amount of, mortgage payment and all that stuff. And not only that, you have to spend on, maintenance and, the fee that comes from buying a house and all that stuff. It's a nightmare in a sense. Not to mention the property tax on $600,000. Okay, so that's the point that I'm trying to make here, because eventually, this type of inflation that goes to the price of asset, including real estate, is going to be deflated, and the inflation would comes into the Bitcoin network, or also other crypto-based type of investment as well. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, you're so early into this thing and you don't even know it, including Gamestop too. Okay.
Honey, the faucet's dripping again.
Relax, it's just a damn washer. I watched the video.
Oh, come on. Why is this even connected to the dishwasher?
Told you I'd fix it. Leaks fear me. Bitcoin's pumping again. Wish I wasn't blowing so much fixing this house. That's not mold. That's patina. They charge extra for that in France.
Why pay a guy when I can fix it myself?
It's all right. We'll fix the roof. Property values always go up. That's how we get rich.
Honey, how are we supposed to get rich if we can't even sell it?
You too now? Mortgage, repairs, HOA, taxes. Did we even live this month? I wish there was a way to buy Bitcoin with the money I've already put into the house.
Obviously, this is a sarcasm way of putting, hey, there's there's a new asset class here that is kind of reinventing the way that people are storing value now, right? And unfortunately, it's going to come from somewhere. People are going to realize at their own time that real estate is now meant for living, meant for raising a family. It's not meant for the investment anymore. I think that's a better way, a better world to live in, I feel. You know? Again, that's why I agree that Bitcoin might solve these type of things where asset inflation is going to be a lot better in terms of, like, again, if you have Bitcoin, right, obviously, but if you store your wealth in real estate, even real estate now cannot compete with Bitcoin. Okay. There was a guy who, I think I did a segment on that. He said that at some point he was cashing out $100 Bitcoin to buy his house. And that 100 Bitcoin now is worth so much more, 10 times more than his house, you know, being than that he sold Bitcoin to buy into. And so because Bitcoin appreciate faster than the, you know, real estate. Not to say that it's going to do that, you know, in perpetuity here, but it's still nice to know that you are the top 14% of the U.S. Population if you hold any amount of Bitcoin. Okay, so so again, most important fact of the matter is GME has some Bitcoin, therefore GME is still the top 10 or the top 20% of the population that holds Bitcoin. Does that make sense? So, and some of you have, you know, have a lot of GME. Therefore, you have some amount of Bitcoin. You don't even have to buy a Bitcoin to hold a Bitcoin. See what I mean? So no worry, you have a natural, you know, diversification here. All right, guy. I think I talked long enough. I hope you are able to learn something. And yeah, I know it's a bit Bitcoin centric this time around, but I just think it's so important. Okay, anyway, I'll play the song and I'll let you guys go. Bye.
Let's talk and stop the company so true. Not just the price, but the value in view. Fundamentals will rise or fall in time, but first we climb this mountain high. Be more invested, rise above the game. Love her or hate her, she speaks with flame. Her voice will shine like morning dew, guiding us all to see what's true. She's kind and smart, her heart so pure, generous soul that will endure. She lifts us up, she makes us fight, encourages us through the night. Think for yourself and take the lead. Build a future, plant the seed for your family, for your name. Light the fire, fan the flame. Her words will echo through the years, melting away all doubts and fears. With every truth she helps us grow, showing the path we ought to know. She's kind and smart, her heart so pure, generous soul that will endure. She lifts us up, she makes us fight, encourages us through the night. Think for yourself and take the lead. Build a future,